Good morning, good morning. We've got another one of those beautiful, warm, sunny days. It's gonna be a good one. Let's go look at some crops. Okay, we are starting off out here in one of our cornfields that we planted the first day we planted corn. This is where our emergence flagging trial is, right here. I haven't looked at it for a while, so I thought I'd come and see. We were waiting on 2 plants to emerge. Think they made it? I somehow doubt it, but we'll take a look here. We can definitely still see some differences between a day 1 emerger and a day 4 emerger. This plant has got a lot more size to it. That will carry on throughout the entire growing season. Same thing here, day 1, day 2, day 4, not as big. Day 4 is a small one. Here's one of our gaps. Never did get a plant to emerge there. Here is our other gap. Never did get a plant to emerge there. So everything that did came in 4 days. That's good. But yeah, this corn is growing. Let's see here. Find one of our day 1ers. 1 leaf, 2, 3, 4. Don't have a 5th collar yet, but it's getting close to that V5 time frame. This field also happens to have my high management versus standard practice plot in it, and we are going to come over here with a sprayer later today. That's part of what we're checking is it dry enough I can spray? It's close. It's close. Later this morning probably. But what I want to do is to flag out where that trial is. I've got some flags and a big flag we're going to stick in the center of it, the split here, so that I know where exactly to spray and what not to spray when we do get over here. So that's what we're doing now. Somewhere down here I've got some rocks stacked up, or at least I did until I side dressed. I may have knocked them over in the process, but there was a flag there, and we're going to stick this big one in. That's the split in our trial. Right there. And yeah, it would be this row. So this row right here is our split. We're going to do our high management on that side, our standard practice on that side. Okay, I did a little more walking. So that flag down there, the big tall one, that's our split between high management, low management. And we got a small flag over there. That's the center of the first sprayer pass. This flag or double flag here would be the end of the trial. So that'll be 1 full round with the sprayer. So basically we're going to go down, we're going to come back, and that's going to be it. In this trial, we also have 2 separate varieties. We have a split planter situation with 103 and 105 day. And we actually have another planter pass, another 40 feet or 60 feet, I mean, of those 2 hybrids out here, but we're just going to exclude that from the trial so that it's an even on both sides. But so if I walk back 12 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This was the center of the planter pass, and we have 2 different hybrids here. So this is the 103 day 03U08, I believe, and this is 105 day 05U something, I don't know. There is a definite difference. This one, the 103 day, is darker green than the 105. I noticed it driving by the other day. You can you can't see it real good here, but if you look across, you might be able to see it over there, how there's some darker green streaks. Can you see it like right over here? That's darker green, the next 24 rows. Definitely shows up. That is, it doesn't mean a whole lot right now, but it is a finding and something that is noteworthy. I found a golf ball. It says world's greatest dad. I was going to keep it, but it says world's greatest dad, and I'm sure it came from the guy across the road, and maybe he wants it because his kids gave it to him, so we'll throw it back. We'll throw it back into the yard. Made it. While we're over here, we jumped across the road. We'll take a look at some of our beans here. I'll have to look up when these were planted. A little thin right here on the ends, but we'll walk out. They look fine out in the field. I don't think we're going to have really any replant. Phil said something about replanting some spots where the geese have eaten all the beans. So we might do something like that, but nothing because of crusting or emergence issues. So yeah, these beans are coming, they're growing. They look decent. I just We just need to get them to grow faster. So these beans were planted on May 6th. I looked it up. We planted 150,000 right here, and I just counted these 2 rows, the row where the tape measure is and the one to the left here. Get out of the sun. We've got 94 plants. That means we got a stand of 94,000, which is why we don't lower our populations a lot more than what we already do. Because while I know you only need 80 to 100,000 plants per acre, our survivability rate isn't always that great. And surprisingly, there are still a few coming. Almost a month later, you could see some right here that actually look like they're gonna make it. I don't know what's going on with that little dude, but whatever. And then there was some like in here where we had a bunch of residue. And this is why I think we need to make some changes to our bean planter, because we see stuff like this where we get these beans and that residue was hairpinned into that trench, and then the beans don't grow or don't come through it. So I don't know if either of those two would actually make it or not. There's another one right there. It probably wasn't gonna make it. So yeah, I don't know. It's all right. Oh, there's one that I missed earlier or didn't count, but it's probably gonna make it. So they'll fill in a little bit more. We've got enough. We've got, 90 to 100,000. That's plenty. These beans will be just fine. It's a little lower than I would like to see. I would love to get 120,000 final stand, but don't need that. So we'll see. It is what it is. We've got V1 soybeans here. We see on a bean plant, we've got our cotyledons, which is actually the seed that comes up out of the ground, turns green, starts doing some photosynthesis, producing sugars for the plant, and then the unifoliate leaves come out, which are these 2 leaves that are kind of by themselves, and then we get what we call a trifoliate, where there's 3 leaflets on a leaf. And once that trifoliate is out, that's what you consider V1. So we go from VE, which is emergence, where they're just poking through the soil, to VC, the cotyledons. And then I'm not sure if there is a VU for unifoliates, or if we just go from VC all the way to V1, but the V1 doesn't happen until the first trifoliate comes out. So anyway, they don't look stellar, but there is nothing wrong with these beans. And sometimes stressing beans early in their life is actually a good thing for them. So I'm happy with them. There is something to be said about the 30% stand loss, though, or 35% stand loss from target population to final stand. That's not great. Like, I wish we could do better than that. And I think it has a lot to do with our planter setup. Now, our planter does a good job of putting the beans in the ground and singulating and getting the population right and the depth right and everything. But with the corn stalk residue that we have out here and not having any row cleaners and the no-till holders that we do, it sometimes pinches those stalks down into the row where we don't get good seed to soil contact, and then things don't come up even or at all. If we could get a better conversion rate and get, 80% emergence stand instead of 60%, 65%, we could lower our planting populations and save some money on seed costs. But I'm hesitant to do that when this is the results we get at 150,000. Now, down the road here to one of our next to side dress cornfields, as evident by the anhydrous tank sitting here. Got a thistle patch. Gonna have to clean that up. It's too wet to side dress, at least right now. Maybe late this afternoon, but we got a lot of drying to do. Good thing we've got sunshine and heat. It'll dry it off. Our soil tends to wick moisture up from underneath, so it helps it dry. So like this afternoon, or even yesterday afternoon, all of this was dry on top, but overnight, the sun isn't baking the top of the ground, and so that moisture can wick up from deeper in the soil profile. It comes up, now it dries out again. When it's dry on top in the morning, that's when you know you're probably good to go start working ground. But anyway, I'm curious, let's do a stand count out here and then look at this corn a little bit. This was planted like the second or third day we planted corn. It was that big day when I did over 300 acres. we did this. So I believe this is my 111 day, 11V76. It's dang good corn. It looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this, actually. 32,000 emerged plants. That's fantastic. This 11V is not one that I push super high populations on, so that's dang near 100% stand. I don't see anywhere that we have an obvious gap. We have a little bit of a wider gap right there, but that could just be a spacing issue. And maybe there, but those aren't skips. That's as close to perfect of a stand as we get, I think. I'm really, really happy with that. That's awesome. And it's growing. It looks really good. And we've got 1, 2, 3, barely 4. This is just a touch behind that stuff that we looked at last field there, but it was planted 2-3 days later. So that's about exactly what it looks like. These are looking better. They're growing. Compared to where we just came from with the May 6th planted beans, these look like they've got some size to them. This is our ultra early planted field of soybeans that were planted on March 25th. That's right, March 25th, ultra early. This is Michigan, barely. You see that sign right there? Yeah, we'll see it when we walk out. But see on the other side of the road, it says 18. The one that you can't see right there, that one says welcome to Hillsdale County, which is Michigan. That's the state line. So this way is in Michigan. March 25th, beans planted in Michigan. And they're alive and well and looking fantastic. Definitely starting to grow. Look at this big trifoliate that we've started to branch off. I have not seen that yet since we were out here Tuesday, I think was the last time. They've grown a lot since then. Wow. Okay. This plant is telling us a story. Look at all of this. All right, so you can see our cotyledons down here way at the bottom. They are still nice and healthy and green. I love that. I want them to stay that way as long as possible. And then we've got a unifoliate leaf. The other one has shriveled up and died off here. It either got stuck in the dirt, this is kind of what it seems like. But you can see the speckling we've got on there. That's metribuzin damage from our pre-emerge herbicide. It kind of hurt it. Also can see it on this first trifoliate. The leaves are all crinkled up. That's herbicide damage, and that's not great. But then our second trifoliate comes out, and it's got a little bit of that, not near as much. And then here's our third trifoliate, and they look really healthy, much better, big, growing, starting to branch off that main stem and bush out. And then we have even got a fourth trifoliate out. These are V4 soybeans. It's still May. That's fantastic. That is unbelievable to me. Working on our fifth trifoliate right here, but that doesn't count yet because you got to wait until the leaf edges are not touching anymore. But if you look down here a little bit farther on this plant, man, there's so much going on here. We have more buds coming off of these lower nodes. So everywhere a leaf attaches is what we call a node. And look at this. This is going to be a branch. These are going to be main branches that come off of that stem, or off the main stem, I guess. Branches off the main stem. And going to be a lot more nodes and places for pods to set. And that's probably a little bit of that early stress from cold weather, from sitting in the ground for 6 weeks, from the herbicide damage that's going to cause that to branch a little bit more. But right here, I'm not entirely convinced that we don't have a flower starting, which is insane to me. I don't see a flower yet. Maybe that's a trifoliate. I could be wrong. But we definitely have more branching or flowers coming here and here and here and all the way up that plant. We're going to keep a very close eye on these. We might see some flowers in a week on soybeans. That's insane to me. I was feeling a little down on these beans when I looked at them a week ago thinking, man, they're just not growing. They don't look that great. But looking at that one right now, oh, this is awesome. These are fantastic looking beans. We stressed them a little more than we should have, but they're going to grow out of that. It's going to be really good. So I am considering, we've got some weeds out here that are getting a little away from us. Typically, we put on our pre-emerge herbicide before the beans come out of the ground, which we did on this field. And then we will come back in about 4 weeks later with some more herbicides, a post-pass with glyphosate mostly. Maybe some clethodim for some volunteer corn if we have that, and occasionally some dual or something else if we need some extra residual. I'm thinking with this field, because of the ultra early application of the pre-emerge, we might have to make 2 passes of glyphosate, 2 post-emerge applications. So I'm wondering if when we got the sprayer fired up today, we shouldn't throw some Roundup in, some glyphosate, and come out and kill all the weeds that are out here, some of this bigger stuff. It's not horrible, but there's enough of it that I would like to clean it up and get it taken care of. Oh, I'm so excited for these. I just want to, I know, let all the haters roll, but to all you told me that I was crazy planting these beans on March 25th, screw you. Look at this. Oh, I am so excited for this. This makes me happy. So we're looking at another cornfield planted on 5/8. So this was 2 days after the last cornfield that we looked at. Now this corn looks quite a bit farther behind. I haven't staged it yet. What do we got? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is V3 corn. So it is a growth stage behind. Looks fairly decent. Some of the color is a little off. It's not the darkest green I've ever seen. But it looks pretty good. Our stand here, I got 31,000, or I counted 31 plants in my 1/1000th of an acre. I looked, my target was 31.5, so that's right on where it's supposed to be. Stand looks excellent. I'm pretty happy with it. I wanted to dig one up here, so I brought my shovel that one of you guys got me. Thank you. And we're gonna dig a plant up and see what kind of root structure we've got at this point. We will make this one our sacrificial plant. Try and get under all the roots so I don't break them off. Nope, I snapped one. I already heard it. Oh yeah, snapped a bunch. That's good. That means we've got a really deep root system, which we do. Look at that. That is impressive. Very. Okay, awesome. It's agronomy lesson day. We're doing all kinds of agronomy lessons. This video is going to get stupid long. It's okay. You guys enjoy it, right? I enjoy this stuff. Can you tell my passion when it comes to this kind of thing? This is what I enjoy. Going out, looking at things, seeing how they're growing, talking about why we do what we do. Okay, here is our V3 corn plant. You can see the seed right there. You see that pink thing? That's the kernel, or what's left of it. That's mostly just the seed coat. The pink is the dye from the seed treatment. Most of the actual active ingredient from the seed treatment has been solubilized into the water and taken up into the roots and is actually systemic in the plant, protecting it from bugs, pathogens, diseases, all kinds of good stuff. Look at those roots, and we broke a bunch of them off. That went a lot deeper than I anticipated at this point. This is fantastic. What I really like to see is the deep penetrating roots that go down into the soil. That means we did not get too much sidewall compaction with our planter, and the roots were able to break through that sidewall of the seed trench that we created with our seed discs. So that's a really good structure. I like that a lot. We do have this one kind of root that goes off sideways here that could be growing down the trench, but it also could just be chasing some moisture and nutrients and whatever. You can see as we get up close to them, we've got a lot of nice root hairs, little fibrous roots coming off of the main roots. That's awesome. Okay, plant anatomy lesson time. All right, we might have to walk back to the gator so I have a surface to work off of, but we're gonna try and use the shovel for right now. So, all right, so we have our seed, and then if you look off of the seed, you'll notice this white, keep my fingers out of there, this kind of white shoot coming up to the base of the stem, or what we call the first node right there. That is the mesocotyl, and that is basically the shoot that comes off of the seed that grows towards the surface. One thing to note about that, if you're ever checking the growers' fields and you want to know how deep they planted their corn to see if maybe that was an issue for some reason or another, you can measure the distance from the seed to the first node, measure that mesocotyl. In this case, it's about 1.25 inches. If you take that measurement and add 3/4 of an inch, it equals seeding depth. It tells you how deep that corn was planted every time. So if we planted this corn at 1 inch deep, this mesocotyl would be very short. If we planted it at 3 inches deep, it would be much longer. But that's a pretty accurate way to tell how deep the corn was planted. Mesocotyl length,
plus 3/4 of an inch. All right, so now we look at this seed here, and you'll notice this root right here in my hand. That's the one that comes out of the tip of the kernel. I am fairly confident that one is called the radical root. That is the first root that the seed sends out. It's kind of the first thing that comes out of the seed even before the shoot or the mesocotyl does. And it goes and starts finding those initial nutrients, moisture, whatever that seed and plant needs to begin its life. That's the root that's taking up our in-furrow fertilizer, or that we want that fertilizer to be right there so that it can get it, but we don't want to burn it, which is why we got to use the right formulations at the right rates and stuff. Okay, and then if you look where the shoot comes out, and that mesocotyl comes out of the seed, you'll notice there's more roots. Kind of this group right here. Those are called the seminal roots. They're kind of the secondary roots coming off of that seed that once it's established, it's like, all right, let's go. Let's see what we can find. Those are the roots that are going to get immediately into our 2x2 starter band. Start bringing in that nitrogen and that sulfur and that phosphorus and keep that plant nice and healthy and give it everything that it needs. Okay, and then we're off to the races and we start growing. We're starting to put above ground leaf tissue on here, and so we get our first nodal roots. So they start clear up here at the top of the mesocotyl, the base of the actual plant. And so instead of direct coming out of the seed here, now we're feeding the stem directly with these nodal roots, and we will continue to get nodal root after nodal root after nodal root, and they will stack up on this stem all the way up until this corn is tasseling. You'll be putting out new nodal roots. A lot of times you'll see these roots later in the season above ground. We call them brace roots at that point. Those are still just nodal roots, but they're coming out of the nodes that are now way above ground level. The first 5 nodes on this plant will be stacked on there so tight that you can't really see the difference. In fact, I would venture to guess that we already have 2 sets of nodal roots out. Much later in the plant's life, we can split that stem and you can kind of see some color variation, and then you'll get a little bit of a gap, like a 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch gap, and then there'll be another dark line across it. That's the barrier between nodes 5 and 6. And so we can start counting nodes up from there once we get to that point. But it's just going to stack them all in there super tight together right now because the plant hasn't gotten big. It hasn't elongated that stem out yet. Once we get to the middle of June here, or maybe another week to 2 weeks, this corn's going to enter its rapid growth phase. And it's going to double in size every week until it's tasseling. Sometime the 2nd or 3rd week of July would be my guess. This is 103-day corn right here. This is probably the first corn that we're going to harvest this fall because it's the shortest season, earliest maturing, planted the earliest. Overall looks great. I'm super thrilled with that root system. That is really, really good. Like I said, our corn is off to a phenomenal start. We have an excellent stand, better stand on especially the earliest planted corn than normal. Now, the earliest planted corn was a week to 2 later than I normally would start planting corn, but we didn't finish super late. We finished when we normally would. We just had a much shorter condensed planting season than what is typical for us. So I'm pretty optimistic. Who knows? We've got a long ways to go in this growing season yet, but things look decent. So I'm gonna go look around a little bit more. We'll see some stuff, but I'll probably check in with you guys back at the farm. We're gonna get the sprayer loaded up later this morning. It's a little wet. We're gonna push it, but we gotta get some of this stuff done. So if I had a drone sprayer, it would be done by now, and it's a pretty good selling point on why I need a drone sprayer. So a couple of days ago, I came out here and we sorted through a lot of boxes of foliar fertilizers and different things that we are going to apply to a plot of our crops throughout the year to test, to try and push things. And from the comments on that video and some other stuff, it's clear that we need a lesson on how to care for plants, why none of this stuff is bad or dangerous or anything like that. So this is going to get real long. We're going to run with an analogy until I can't make it work anymore. And we'll see if I can try and explain some of this stuff to you. I am a crop farmer. My job is to take care of these little plants and make them grow the best that I possibly can so that they produce the most bushels of whatever crop that I am growing as possible. So how do I do that? Well, the first thing we're going to start with is our soil. We got to take care of our soil, right? We have lots of different soil types on our farm. We have some good soil that we'll call the rich soil, and we're going to use an analogy comparing this to, say, different neighborhoods. Every city, town, county, whatever, has different neighborhoods to it that have different characteristics. Same with our soil types. You could have the top of a hill that could be a sandy spot, it could be a yellow clay spot, get into the low ground, it could be a little bit darker, better organic matter. You're going to have some areas in towns and cities where the rich neighborhoods with the really nice big fancy houses, and you're going to have some poorer neighborhoods that have less fancy houses, let's just say. Our soil is no different. So some of our plants are going to win the lottery, and they're going to be in the rich soil that's going to be able to provide them with more of what they need straight from the soil. Some of our plants are going to lose that little lottery, and they're going to be on some of the tougher ground, the poorer soil, where they're not going to have as many resources naturally available to them via the environment that they are living in. That means that we have to take care of them a little bit differently sometimes, which is why we do things like variable rate the amount of fertilizer that we are putting on, or the amount of plants that we're putting out there, because sometimes just having less plants in a poorer area gives more resources to each individual plant. That's a good thing, okay? So we're going to take care of these plants, and right now they're starting to grow, but it starts with a seed, right? It starts with a seed, and then as soon as we plant that seedling and put it into its environment, whether that's a poor area or a rich area, it's when it starts its life and it starts to grow. It's basically an infant, a baby corn plant, a baby soybean plant, whatever it may be, it's in its infancy. The first thing that I am going to do to help my plants grow is use seed treatments, right? I have this fancy machine right here. It's a seed treater. We spend a couple of months in the spring of the year and in a little bit of time in the fall doing wheat, putting seed treatments on soybean seed. All of our corn seed comes with seed treatments on it. Think of these seed treatments as the vaccines that you give infants as soon as they are born, right? It's no different than in the hospital after a baby is born. They're getting several vaccines right from the get-go to protect them from very bad diseases. Well, that's what my seed treatments are doing for my seedlings, right? It's protecting them from different funguses and diseases that may get in there and infect the seedling and keep it from ever even getting started. And in some cases, it's protecting it from insects, bugs, parasites, nematodes, all kinds of different things that are trying to make my plants not grow as good as they should. So now we've got our seed planted. We've given it its vaccine so that it can start its life and grow really good. What's the next thing we have to do? Well, after a baby is born, what do? First thing, you feed it. You see those big white tanks down there? Not real well. Those tanks have what we call starter fertilizer in them, or at least they did before we planted. Starter fertilizer, much like milk or formula for an infant, gives that baby corn plant everything that it needs to begin its life and to have a good, healthy start. Same thing. Take care of your baby, take care of my plants. Now, those big white tanks down there don't get filled up for free. It is very expensive to buy the starter fertilizer and the plant food that our corn plants, our baby corn plants, need to get off to a good, healthy start. I would not buy it and use it if I didn't need to. If it was no benefit to me, we would not spend the money on that. But because I'm a crop farmer and I know how to take care of my plants, I have learned, and research has told us, that starter fertilizers in our climates, in our soils, pays consistently. It helps our plants be healthier and get off to a much faster, quicker start. If you need a visual of what happens when you put that plant food on in bands right next to our rows, look what happened when I got into my grass. Notice the green streaks right in front of the corn rows? That's because when we planted this, I drove the planter right up into the grass. And the fertilizer didn't quite shut off at the edge of the field, so now I have some green streaks in my grass. It works. Fertilizer works. Now, we talked about how some of our plants are in the rich neighborhoods and some of them are in the poor neighborhoods. But regardless of whatever neighborhood your kids are growing up in,
Do you send them out on the streets and say, go find your own food and subsistence and don't bother me? I hope not. Not if you're a decent parent anyway. You feed them. You give them food, nutrition, something of substance to help them grow. Well, that would be the macro fertilizer that we put out here. It's not necessarily the starter. The starter is the stuff to get it established and growing, but we're not going to live off of that long term. We put nitrogen out here in the form of anhydrous. We put phosphorus out here in the form of MAP, monoammonium phosphate. We put potash out, even in our bean fields, in the form, or potassium in the form of potash. We use sulfur. We use lots of different nutrients in order to feed our crop. That's the table stakes, the meat and potatoes and the food that is going to sustain this crop from the time that it's in the ground until the time that we harvest it. We spend a lot of time and effort putting fertilizer and all of the nutrition that our plants need out in these fields. The last thing we need is competition. Things like this dandelion over here coming in and stealing that fertilizer and that plant food that I want my soybeans to get or my corn to get, and it's going to take it instead. That's not okay. So we use herbicides to reduce the distractions, to take them away from the beans so that our beans can thrive in an environment where they don't have to outcompete their bigger, older, other plants out here in their space. So we've got our baby plants established. We've taken the competition away from them. We've set them up in the best environment we possibly can, some in that rich neighborhood, some in that poorer neighborhood. But we've done what we can. Now, I don't know about your kids, but my kids don't always like to eat the best. They live off a lot of chicken nuggets and chips and who knows what else, but it's not always the most balanced diet with all the nutrition that they might need, right? Okay, well, that's where some of our micro stuff or our foliar feed nutrients come into play. So now we can give our plants something like this. I don't know, my wife thinks that our kids get a little cranky and grouchy and in a bad mood when they don't eat right and they don't get enough nutrition. So you know what she does? She gives them a vitamin. Does that help? I don't know. I don't know about my kids, but it certainly helps my plants. Well, does it? I don't know. That's why we're doing 100 acres of it and not 1,000, because I don't know if it helps or not, but it's worth a shot. We're going to try it. So you can think of this Micronourish FE that I'm going to put on here later today, or this Micro Blitz and Phosphix and Sweet and Easy that we're going to put on next week as the vitamins, the little extra, the stuff that the plants aren't maybe getting from the soil like they're supposed to, but they really need it. And so we're going to spoon feed it right to them and give them a shot right in the leaf or the arm or whatever, like you would give your kids a vitamin. That is going to get our kids, our corn plants, through their kind of growth phases. And we're going to get them to grow up, be teenagers or into their young adulthood, right? When all of a sudden we enter the reproductive phases. Oh boy. Now, does your nutrition stay the same from the time that you're a kid, getting your vitamins that your parents are giving you to make you behave better? Maybe? To when you're trying to have kids and, I don't know, maybe you or your wife took a prenatal vitamin. How about that? Your vitamins, your needs changed. So that's when we're going to come in with another shot of vitamins. Our R1 application, our reproductive foliar feeds, or this overpass here that we're going to use, or the, what's the other one? Super 25B, the boron that we're going to add in, the nutrients that we need in the reproductive stages more so than the growth stages. Now hold on a second. We've entered our reproductive stages. We've got these adult corn plants. They're out there in the world just doing their thing. And in the world we have diseases. We have more distractions. We have things trying to bring these plants down. So that's where we use a product like this. This is a fungicide. It will help protect them plants. It's not really a vaccine, it's more of a medication. I mean, it does have some preventative properties. It also has some curative properties for any diseases and things that they may already have, so we can stop the spread. Keep those plants as healthy and productive as possible for as long as possible. At this point, we have done everything we can to protect and encourage and feed our young corn plants, or now old corn plants, as possible. You know what it still takes? It takes a little bit of luck. It
takes a little bit of Mother Nature doing her thing, giving us the rainfall we need, the sunshine we need, the heat that we need, so that our plants can reach their fullest potential and become big, mature plants with nice, big ears on the corn, lots of pods on the beans, big heads on the wheat. Whatever it is that you're growing, you've done everything you can to protect it and to feed it, because we're trying to grow the best crops that we possibly can. Now, this would be the point where my analogy breaks down a little bit, because at this point, our crops are mature, they are have exhausted their lifestyle, and now we're going to harvest them for food. And that's frowned upon in most societies with the other analogy. Don't do that. So, am I and all the other conventional farmers out there trying to poison you by spraying our crops with fertilizers and fungicides and herbicides to help them reach their fullest potential? Absolutely not. What we're doing is trying to produce the best, healthiest, most productive crop at the lowest cost that we can to provide a living for our family, but also to produce a healthy food supply for everybody in the world. A healthy plant will produce a healthier product. The better the plants grow, the better this corn grows, the healthier the grain that we harvest at the end of the year is, the more nutrient dense that it's going to be. If I try and raise corn in a nutrient deficient environment, do you think it's going to have that nutrient in the grain? Not at the levels that it should. That's why we use all of this stuff. That's why we are constantly trying new things and trying to improve the way that we do things. It has nothing to do with it's just easier, or I don't know why some of you people think that we're just out to try and poison the world. I don't understand it. That's not the case. Nobody is forcing any of this stuff on us. I don't have to use all of the foliar fertilizers. I don't have to use fungicides. I don't have to use nitrogen or herbicides or any of it. And some people don't. That's organic farming. But I can grow better crops doing it my way than I could if I was doing it organically. I could. Maybe some organic farmers got it figured out. I don't. Maybe you guys need better farmers. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. But I can tell you and assure you that we're using years of experience with all of the research data that we can find, and constantly doing our own research and trials to figure out the best way to not only grow healthy, productive crops that are good for whoever consumes them, whether that goes into the food supply or it goes into feeding livestock, whatever it is, and also being profitable at the same time. I can't spend money and do all of this stuff if it doesn't return and make me profit in the end. This is my job. I love it. It's a lifestyle. It's totally different than any other job that most people would have. But it does still have to pay my bills.
So trust your farmers. We're not doing anything with malicious intent. There's no intent to harm or poison or do anything that would cause harm anywhere. We're just trying to do the best that we can, raising the best, cheapest, most nutrient-dense crops that we know how to do. Make sense? All right, we're going to end it there. Feel free to tell me why I'm wrong and leave all your comments down below. We are going to go get a sprayer ready, though. It's time to actually use some of these products.
All right. So I haven't sprayed for a while, but first thing we got to do is go in and change our nozzles. So Dad's been using these AI tips for spraying corn herbicide, bean herbicide. We're done with that. We don't really need them anymore. I want twin jets because we want good coverage. So this nozzle here has two different kind of nozzles, if you will, or it's going to make two different jets. One sprays forward, one sprays back. That gives us the best possible coverage. So we're going to go through and rotate all of these to get the twin jets down. Got our sprayer around and I got our chemicals around, or our fertilizer, I guess. So we're using this MicroNourish FE. Talked about it a little bit the other day. 4% nitrogen, 3% sulfur, 0.25% boron, 1% iron, 3% manganese, 2% zinc. All things corn plants needs for their growth stages, right? We're making healthy plants, getting them as big, as strong as we can before the reproductive stages. So we're going to use that at a quart to the acre, and we're going to use some of this Sweet and Easy that's in this tote. This is a sugar-based product, and we're going to
use 2 quarts of that. Is that right? Yeah, 2 quarts of that. So we're gonna go ahead and get loaded up. We're only gonna put enough in for 20 acres to start with, because 100 acres is more than I can fit on the sprayer load. I want to spray 15 gallons of solution per acre, so we're gonna have almost 15 gallons of water per acre, you know, minus what, 3 quarts. And I can't get that much water on to do 100 acres on a 1,200 gallon tank. So if we do 20 acres, then we can come back and reload and get the rest of it on one. Should work out. I am loaded up. I got our monitor all set up. Had to put the products that we're using in there and the rates and everything. It's important that I do that and we keep good records, because like I said, we're testing this stuff, and if I don't know what we did and when we did it and where we did it, it's gonna be really hard to keep track of. So I'm making sure to write everything down where we're doing stuff, and I'm putting flags out to try and do a better job of just tracking everything. But having the computer records is ultimately the easiest way for me to be able to come back and compare it later. Starting over here in our high management field where we put our flag out this morning. So that one is the row that we're gonna go down. We're just making 1 round down and back, and then we'll move on to the next field. You can see it's none too dry out here, but it seems to be firm enough to hold us up, so we're okay. We're just hand driving this. We could try and set up the auto steer, but not worth it for 1 round. Important note, Dad was spraying corn last, so any herbicide carryover residual that's in the boom should not matter. Also, he did rinse the sprayer out 3 times since he finished spraying that with just water, and so it should have cleaned everything out, but we won't hurt anything if there was anything left. It's a little wet out here yet. We certainly aren't side dressing this today, maybe even not tomorrow. Anyway, we did 3 rounds in this second field here that I had. Yeah, basically we've got enough to do 80 acres yet, or just a touch more. We got, what, 18 gallons in there, enough for an acre in the tank yet, but we're gonna go back and load up. So we did 3 passes, 12.6 acres here. I did 6 acres in the other one. That's 18, yeah, we're pretty darn close to where we're supposed to be. So we're going to go back and load up a full load to go up to our irrigated field and do that. I need to drive to the other end of this field though, because when you do 3, you end up in the back, and put the flags in where we sprayed. Reloading the sprayer here. We need 40 gallons out of our tote. We need all of those jugs. Jugs are no fun, so if this becomes something more standard practice in the future, we'll get it all in totes rather than jugs, or at least the majority of it. But for now, for testing, this is what we deal with. Oh, this corn's starting to look good. It's definitely yellower as you look to the south. There's a variety change over there. I think that's what the difference is. But this product that we're using here with the iron in it, iron makes plants produce chlorophyll. That should turn it very green very quickly. Golf courses use iron to make their grass look green when they're hosting tournaments and going to be on TV. It's why they're so pretty. So, yeah, we'll see what this does, and we'll keep a real close eye on it here over the weekend and next week, and see if we can pick out the edge of our plot over here. I think that little gap right there is where I ran out of the one variety and switched to the other. There's definitely a color variation over here. It's interesting. It's just genetics sometimes, but be really, really curious to see how these foliars change that, and if it changes it, and how quickly it changes it. Be nice if it was silver and yellow and a Haggy, but hey, it's a heck of a good sprayer, especially for us. Anyway, I got as far as I wanted to go down going the other direction, and still had 300 and some gallons left in the tank, so we came over to the north edge. We're going to come just off of the line. Basically, I'm lining up with a planter pass instead of the guest row between planter passes. So we're 30 foot off the edge, and we'll start working our way across until we run out. Doing it that way instead of starting back right where we started in this field, it preserves my check strip there, and having a hard edge of where we sprayed and where we didn't. We'll actually have more tests this way. Well, there's what we ended up spraying in this field. We got a big chunk over here, and then I did some up here, a little bit on the ends to run the tank empty. So we're good. We're gonna go back. We might load up a load of glyphosate for those beans. We'll see what's going on when I get back there. Just pulling back into the farm, and look what we got down there. A semi truck. That, yeah, they called me yesterday and said they would be here today. I asked them to call me an hour before they got here, though. Think I got that call? Nope, it's all right. I'm here. We'll go get it. Not seed today. Field signs. Lots and lots of field signs. Holy cow. Looks like a lot of work to me. Well, if I'm going to spray those beans, I'm going to have to wait for some water. I turned the water off because I forgot that I was going to need some more. So while we're waiting on water, I wanted to come out and look at some wheat. We looked at the other crops this morning. We didn't look at the wheat because you don't walk in wheat in the morning when it's dewy because you will come out soaked. But it's the middle of the afternoon now. A friend of mine, farmer in north central Ohio, tells me that they're starting to find army worms in their wheat. That's a bad thing. Means we need to come out and scout our wheat for army worms. Army worms will come out here and then will feed on the leaves a little bit, but eventually what they will do is clip through the stem right below the head. And you know what happens to the head when an army worm eats through the stem? It falls on the ground, and if it's on the ground, we cannot harvest it, so that's a problem. So we have to keep a very close eye out for that. For the most part, our wheat looks pretty good. We do see a little bit of disease on the flag leaf here. Some of this browning. I'm not crazy about that, but nothing I can do about it at this point. The other thing I see is this. This looks like that same disease, but it's actually not. If you hold this up to the light, it's translucent. You can see right through it. That is actually window painting. It's insect feeding. It's a certain type of insects that, what we call window pane, where they eat the chlorophyll off of the leaf and leave a clear layer behind. I don't know exactly what would be doing that in wheat. In corn, we would call it flea beetles do that. Slugs can do that kind of damage, but we're way up high on the plant, so I highly doubt it's slugs here. Whether the flea beetles get into the wheat or not, I don't know. But yeah, I don't like this bronzing. Looks like some rust maybe on the wheat. Overall, our wheat's going to be really good. Really good. But we are starting to see that. And if we get armyworms, it will have to get sprayed again. There are some of the wheat berries right there, nice and plump and green. They're about done filling out. Like, it's about time for the wheat to start drying down. We're a week or two away from seeing it starting to yellow up. Wheat harvest is coming quick. Finally had enough water to load the sprayer up, and so we've got a full tank, basically, not quite a full tank, but enough for 75 acres glyphosate in the tank. That's all we've got right now. We're going to, well, that and the additives, the water conditioner and surfactant. We're going to go back to our early March planted beans. We're going to hit them with that. I am going to leave a couple of passes or whatever in the middle of the field, and then when we get down to about 20 acres worth of spray remaining in the tank, we brought some of our Anderson stuff. This is for the V5 soybean application, so there's 3 different products there. We've got some of that Phosphix, some Micro Blitz, and some Sweet and Easy. I just grabbed the jug so I could bring it with me instead of what's in the tote there. So we're going to use that up. On 20 acres, we'll do a test strip out here in the middle and see if it makes any kind of a difference. Shoot, I didn't bring any flags. I should have brought some flags. Oh well. But yeah, it should be pretty easy to tell when we're down to 20 acres worth of spray left in the tank, and we'll just dump that in the top of the tank or in the adductor or whatever, and use it up. Clearly, something happened with the sprayer the first pass there. We're gonna rinse those out down there in a minute, but I am just pouring this stuff in the top here. Last stuff I've got to put in is this Micro Blitz. It's very green. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting black because it does have carbon in it. Usually carbon is black, but okay. Got all kinds of stuff in there. This will be interesting. All right, get her in there. All right, I added in our other products here, the Micro Blitz, the Phosphix, the Sweet and Easy. we should be good to go. We've had our agitation running, so everything's getting mixed well. Let's go. All right, this is our last pass. We ended up doing 3 passes with the added products in there, the Anderson's products. So we should come out pretty close, as we got 80 gallons left in the tank. I've been using just under 100 on a pass. It's crazy, but cover a lot of acres at 120 foot wide. We might have just a little bit left. We'll probably just spray it out going up one of these other fields or something. All right, I think I've rambled enough for today's video, so let me have it in the comments. And the Best RX shirts that I've been wearing, I don't have it on today. I got these Border Farm shirts, but they are live on Farm Focus website, farmfocus.com, or you can go to borderfarms.com, and there's a link there. Click on the shop tab, and you can get yours ordered today. So yeah, would appreciate that if you go check them out. There are kids sizes coming soon. Those aren't quite there yet, but hopefully they'll be up next week. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great weekend. We might put some anhydrous on tomorrow, in which case I'll make a video. We might not do anything tomorrow if it's too wet. I don't know. So we'll see you when we see you. But don't forget to subscribe, like the video. Have a great weekend.